Okay, good night, good night, good night, good night, everyone. Welcome to the Fatherhood Think Tank. 60 to 90 minutes of fatherhood conversation for fathers, with fathers, about fatherhood issues. I want to welcome everybody here tonight to the Fatherhood Think Tank. We have a very sobering conversation that we'll be having tonight. As I would like to say, Father Think Tank thinks about issues that affects us as fathers in every day, bring them to a platform, and then have fathers kind of discuss their thoughts and feelings and their experiences around that. A very experiential type of platform. Not agenda based, but one agenda is to help fathers have a space, safe space to speak and open about events that is happening within them. So I just want to welcome everybody here tonight. We have a very, very looks like I was getting nervous because it looked like I was here by myself. You know how much I hate that. I hate to be the solo man by myself because I start stumbling and mumbling and going on tangents that's not even necessary. But the group always keep me informed. So I'm Dr. Ron Uncle Williams, the curator of the Fatherhood Think Tank, and I want to first I want to, and as you went through, as you've seen, if you was here waiting, you've seen who are some of our sponsors are. I want to get the fathers to introduce themselves tonight, who's in the think tank. And then we'll get into our topic of tonight. If you've seen when I put up the flyer, how can fathers protect and save their children? It's all predicated on or inspired, let me say more inspired by the recent for me, and how I came up with it was looking at the results of a recent court case in South Carolina where a young 14-year-old child was shot in the back, and the person who shot him in the back wasn't found guilty of what the prosecution presented. But what made me really motivate this was I seen his father in the audience crying his eyes out. And I know at some point, thinking of that in that case, that father, we've seen his mom, but then I also seen his father. And that, that really struck a chord with me. And so I said, hey, let's talk about how do we protect and save our children, especially if they just going, I have some pictures on the flyer for tonight's show, and every one of those young people were under the age of, you know, really they were all under 18 years of age, and they all of them, even to Emmett Till, the incidents that revolves around their death had something to do with them going to the store. That's ironic. That's an ironic, thing. But every one of them was going to the store. Trayvon was going to the store. Jordan Davis was at a store, was at a gas station store, and ultimately because of that, they were, in many cases, I say they were murdered. But court can say something, but I think that they were murdered in most cases in cold blood. So let me get off my platform and get these guys in here, introduce themselves, and we can kind of get into this conversation from.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Ed Tenney, and I am a father of three adults, grown adults, with three grandbabies now. Three of them are on Earth, and they have all landed. So I'm excited to be here and be a part of this conversation.
Leonard, Travis, guys, bust in
Yeah.
anytime.
Good evening. My name is Leonard Ross. I'm the father of three. I have a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, and an 18-year-old.
Mm.
And this is a good topic for me, considering that the 18-year-old getting ready to go off to college. So, um, as a father of someone, first child of the first of having my first child leave the home, that's the question I keep asking myself: how can I protect her now that she's gone or leaving rather?
Hello, guys.
Absolutely.
My name is Travis Sands. I basically have two beautiful sons. One is 11 years old. The other one is 15 years old. And I continue to mentor young people every day. I have about three schools that I deal with that I continue to teach them about character development. And I am very open and ready to talk about this conversation about how do we protect our youth in this climate that we're in right now.
There he is. There he is.
I apologize, gentlemen. My name is Lionel Lightborn. Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of seven young adults, three young women, four young men, one granddaughter, and one grandson. And it's always a pleasure to be here.
So I'm gonna get right to. I don't know how many of you guys actually know of this case, and probably this case in many instances um, mirrors previous murders. I'm gonna use this terminology: murders, previous murders of kids in the similar situation. What makes this situation the most probably interesting is twofold of it. The young, in all the cases of the murders, to my understanding, Trayvon, the young lady in California from the 80s, I mean, from the 90s, um, Jordan Davis, um, Emmett Till, they did, they were operating in their space of being a child, doing young adult things, and they got into interactions with adults who, in many instances, took I think took their interaction with this child, I think, in a murderous stance. And in this case that we're looking at, now, despite, and I find it interesting as I look and read some of the commentary and the things that the man who murdered the child, because I like to be very clear on what I'm saying, the man who murdered the child his defense was that he was protecting his child. I just want to, this what makes this a little bit more unique and really for us as fathers to really delve into. The man who murdered the child was, in his defense, said he was defending his child because the young man that him and his son chased 130 yards allegedly had a gun. And because that's what I'm going to say, he had a gun. The alleged part is that he pointed the gun at the son. And I really want to hear, I really will, I think that this morning when I woke up, I knew yesterday when the jury asked some questions, because I follow most of these cases, any kind of court cases. I even do that a lot for my own students, so they can understand the justice system and how it operates, and see this even at the young, tender age that they are at, so they have a good understanding of what they're facing in this world, even if they're not parents or not. Because in this case, I'm their father when they are in my possession, and I need to teach, and they must learn. And this morning, I had already, when I've seen the results, I already knew that, hey, that was coming, and it didn't sit good with me, because it started to put an idea of there are people out here who are criminals, and they do criminal activities, and there are young people who do criminal activities. But in the case of someone doing something and coming and do something to you, and they didn't do anything to you, but you thought they did, so you chased them all the way somewhere, and then after chasing them for a certain amount of time, not that they at any point decided to change their stance of getting away from you, they fell down, and then you was on top of them, or you was close enough to them, and items that they had, like their phone, their shoe, when you're running and you're trying to get away, you're not keeping up with stuff. And I think that we all understand a culture that most people, when they have guns, young, old, that gives them a certain courage, and they do things that they probably wouldn't do. They wouldn't do if they didn't have a gun. And so it boggles my brain that this young child had a gun, but wasn't trying to use it against the people, was just trying to get away from it. So I put that out there in the mind. I just want to, hear from the dads, hear from you guys, thoughts about it. I'm ready to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly of this situation, and what can we learn and teach people today from.
Well, it doesn't fall under the jurisdiction of self-defense, because it becomes predatory. And one thing about it, in self-defense, having a self-defense plea, you have to be void of anything predatory. And in anything self-defense means that you better yet, self-defense means fight or flight, right? And so if self-defense means fight or flight, then fight or flight has nothing to do with chasing anybody, because the minute you start to give chase, that makes you a predator. You understand? Not the prey. in order to have a true self-defense motive, that means at some point you were the prey and not the predator. But you became predatory when you started to chase him, and he became the prey. You understand? So if he shot them, it would have been more justifiable self-defense because he was the one that chased. I'm just using common sense on it.
I think you make a really good argument about that, because I even wonder how this whole case would be. But we know that right now, today, the other case for the other young man in Texas started today. The one who the twins came and jumped on him. He ended up stabbing one of them and killing one of the twins, right? His case starts today. And his defense is self-defense. But it's an interesting thing.
Right. That would be self-defense because you're right. It's 2-on-1, and you have two people that's being violent against your persons. Then that's a better self-defense claim and a more logical self-defense claim than you chasing someone. You cannot claim self-defense if you're giving chase. You only claim self-defense if you're being chased. And so the fact that, and if he took this, and if that guy took the stance with a self-defense, I mean, a halfway decent lawyer would eat him alive. You understand? Because the fact of the matter, they're going to want to know, and they're just going to go very common sense and very logical. At what point you understand that your life was in danger, or your life, because when that guy ran away from you, that's where the safety, because you're not a cop. Only person that has the legal jurisdiction to give chase to anybody is a police officer. But self-defense self-defense is literally, and I've done a gun, what they call it, a firearm training class. And they teach you this in a firearm training class. So even if he's a licensed, which is even worse, because if he's a licensed firearm carrier, which means he had took the class, then there's teachings or trainings within that class that says that gives scenarios of when you're justified in taking a life, right? And so you're only justified in taking a life if your life was in what they call imminent danger of being taken, right? Which means that you can't cause your life to be in imminent danger of being taken if you actually the cause of it. You understand? If you had a way out, then guess what? Your life is not in imminent danger because you had a way out and you didn't take it. Now you cause that life to be taken because you actually initiated the chase when you had no jurisdiction. When the guy ran away from you, that eliminated the imminent danger that you would have been in. You see what I'm saying? So he actually caused imminent danger, not only just for the kid he killed, but he also caused imminent danger for his son because his son took part in the chase as well. And had his son been killed, he could have actually gotten charged for his own son's murder because he actually initiated that chase when he didn't have jurisdiction or authority to do so. And so that's just one aspect of it. I'm not an attorney, but I'm just using common sense on it. And when you got it again, when in training, they said again, imminent danger. Now you're within your right as a licensed firearm owner to take a life if your life is what they call an imminent danger, which means a person have like equal, what they call it. You can't shoot them if they just have a fist against you. It has to be what they call a weapon that can cause like bodily harm, like they can actually take a life. So it can be a knife, it can be a bludgeon out like a bat or something like that. That's when your life is in imminent danger, and you're within your right to use your firearm and take a life. That's one reason. You can also take a life if someone else's life is in imminent danger and you're trying to save another person. And so you see another person. That was his. Just to be clear, that was his defense. That's not his defense, because the minute he started chasing a person, the minute that person ran away, and the other whoever life he was claiming he was trying to take, the minute that person flee from causing that other person imminent danger, that's, you know what I'm saying? That person became what they call in a safe zone. But when you chase them, you understand, and you keep the situation, or you keep that person or yourself in imminent danger, that's when you can be liable for second-degree murder or manslaughter. And in his case, he actually caused it because, again, he had no jurisdiction or authority to chase anybody. Once the situation presented itself safe, which means the person stopped to flee, you understand, that's when he was well within his right. I'm like, okay, when you flee, you did everything within the confine of your rights as a private citizen to safeguard the situation. The minute that person flees, it's like when you see a person breaking in the house and you say, hey, I got a gun, and they run away for breaking in their house, then what you did, you safeguard the situation. You don't have the right to run behind them because you saw them breaking in the house and then shoot them because you caught up with them, on the case may be. So he he has a lot of well, I always want to use the word culpability. You heard that? Yeah. Hey, Tina, you heard that? I always want to use culpability. Sound like I know what I'm talking about. And so even if he didn't get charged with murder, and he could get charged with murder because he had a lot of outs. You understand what I'm saying? He had a lot of opportunity outs, which means he had a lot of opportunity to preserve life, and he didn't. That's where he becomes liable. So yes, he can be at least convicted of manslaughter or whatever capital crime like murder or second degree charges.
He ain't nothing. He not convicted of anything. He
was acquitted.
So he was acquitted. He was found not guilty. He was found not guilty. So okay, and it's so funny, now, like because you brought up this. You
just brought up another point. Now here goes where we started back to your topic, Ron, and Leonard, you're gonna love this one. This is where we get to safeguard our children, and particularly as African Americans, minorities, and just people of color in general. We have to safeguard our children for the very atrocity and tragedy and that verdict and outcome you just mentioned, and something that we never really take seriously. You know what that is? You ready for it? Take a wild guess. 2 words.
What?
Jury duty. And so what I understood, and I've done jury duty. They just know they never want to pick me. But never, they pick my wife, they never pick me. So
they never want to pick me.
With that, and the reason I knew this with the jury duty is very important because I've seen voters registration pushed heavily in the Black community. It's being pushed heavily now. And it usually stopped there. And I've seen people who are responsible voters and puts voters registration on one side of their mouth and no jury duty on the other side. So I've seen people who's devout and devoted to their voting rights. You understand, as a registered voter, but at the same mouth shun jury duty. You understand? And we don't understand that if you truly want to fight these injustices that we're experiencing, then we have to push the significance of jury duty even greater than we put voters push the motive or to promote voters registration. Here's why. Because the greatest injustice don't happen to us every 2 to 4 years. The greatest injustice happened to us every Monday morning, particularly when the most innocent of be it African American, Hispanic American, or minorities are civically lynched every Monday morning when they're forced to take plea deals just to get out of what perceived trouble that they think they're in. And Absolutely. So because of that, now let's see the outcomes of what happens when you do that. Because the greatest injustice is not happening in the voters poll, right? The greatest injustice of African Americans and minority Americans is not happening at the voters poll. It's happening at the jury pool. That's a fact. And because it is happening at the jury pool, here's the outcome. You're gonna, when it comes to the most life-saving jobs in your community, you're gonna be in a Black community with more white police officers in your neighborhood than Black. And the question is why? It's because systemically, before particularly young black men, that's why you see more black women police officers than black men. But for specifically, systemically rather, you would see black boys and black men and minority men, Hispanics as well, getting some type of charge. And that charge is very strategic. And so you will see just about every minority young man in some kind of criminal involvement before they get 18 years old, be it juvenile or not. And so once you can stick them with some type of criminal infraction, be it they was innocent or guilty, as long as you can make the arrest, you stain their chances of ever being in any type of law enforcement or fire academy and stuff like that as well. They will not clear the background. And because they will not clear the background, be it they were innocent or guilty, they still won't clear the background. And where they cap us at, just to shut us up, they will stick most of the black men in corrections officers, which means it's amazing. They're gonna put you in prison one way or another. And so you'll find most of the minority men in corrections and in court bailiff, but you'll never see them in law enforcement authority like policemen and firefighters, because those are the positions of power when it comes to law enforcement. So yes, it's very systemic, it's very strategic, but again, if we're going to fight this, we got to be very strategic as well. You understand, when it comes to that, and push the importance, because I'm like, listen, if I'm not pushing, since you got voters registration rights, voters registration, voters, we got to vote every 2 to 4 years. The rest of that money should be heavy on pushing jury participation. And again, I'm telling you that the voters participation when it comes to minority people far outweigh and top heavy when it comes to the jury participation of black people. As a matter of fact, you couldn't tell me one promotion, you couldn't show me one commercial that encouraged you to join and do jury duty. Not one. It's victimized as we are and claim to be by the system, right? You would think we would push jury duty harder than we put voters registration, or equally. We don't. You couldn't tell me not one. And I'm 54 years old. And in 54 years, I have not seen one promo that actually encouraged, incited, inspired African Americans or minority to actually involve themselves into doing jury duty as a means. You understand? As a means to fight systemic injustice. Not one. But yet the polls prostituting ourselves. Because that's all we do. We love, that's what the polls do. It turns us into strippers. We prostitute ourselves at the poll. But the real action happens on Monday morning. And guess what? After we vote, we go to sleep. And half of the people don't even, I don't even want to ask the amount of people who vote how many times they served on the jury, or how many times they even answered jury duty. You understand? So we are walking contradiction. That's why you don't see me a lot of this stuff. You don't see me really respecting it. I have to push back against it because I already know. Once I sit in there and see more people, I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. If we are affected by this the most, why we are not most represented in these jury pools? And not to mention, I was on trial. So I take it more personal because I actually was on trial and went to on trial and went to verdict for something I literally didn't do. But went on trial and went to verdict. And if it wasn't for my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I could have been doing 15 years myself. But God got me out of it. And I'm talking about God got me out of that when there was only one black person on my jury pool. He was an elderly man. I remember he was 75 years old, elderly black man, slept through the whole trial. And guess what? They didn't eliminate. I'm talking about when it came to verdict, they kicked him off the jury pool and put an alternate in, another white alternate. So now my jury, the jurors getting ready to, go to verdict on me, all of them was white. After they kicked the one black guy off who was sleeping. And they didn't kick him off because he was sleeping. They kicked him off because they said, well, he lied about something or something happened on doing the jury questionnaire. And so that means to tell me Y'all kicked this black man off the jury, not because he was sleeping during the whole trial, because you were searching for something to kick him off the jury, not because he was sleeping, but something to disqualify him. So the whole time I'm on trial for 2 days. They searched for 2 days to eliminate that one holdout they think that would have freed me. But it's the man that they didn't see that really freed me and brought them people who probably couldn't never empathize with me. God made them empathize with me. And the lady told me, and I told the story on here before, and the lady said, forget the evidence, the facts that was presented. The lady, her rationale for coming up with a not guilty verdict for me is because she thought I couldn't afford you know what I'm saying? Not that I stole anything. What happened is I made a big deal about something in the store that they tried to violate my rights. It was a return policy. And so it's pretty much they looking at me like I stole it. I'm like, man, I just came here and bought it. I can tell you the day I came in and bought it, and you guys putting the cameras back. But they was just trying to deny me my rights. Not to mention they had this big ass sign over there just saying that, you know, this what they call it, the return policy sign.
Mm-hmm.
And so forget all the facts. This lady said her rationale for coming for a not guilty verdict was, well, we seen that $100. This is her words exactly. We saw that $100 didn't mean much. We said didn't mean a lot to most people, but we saw it meant a lot to you. If I'm lying, I'm freaking flying. This is exactly what. Forget the facts. All the facts showed is she ain't say none of that. And right then and there, God used that lady. I said to myself, oh my God, you use this lady racism to set me free. Because she thought she was doing me a favor because she thought that I couldn't afford $100.
Right.
And that's why. Right. Literally, this is
and that's why you was making the fuss because it's so it's funny because this is let me say this. I think that what you just point out is so important for us as fathers to talk with our children about. Like, listen, I agree 100 in a zillion with you about jury duty, because when you look at the cases, right, a large majority of the cases that have juries have black people in them, and it said this is a jury of your peers. But if none of your peers show up, they got to take the people that's there and say they're your peers. So when you're talking about justifying how, no, it wasn't about $100 being too much. It's not about it being too much. It's the principality that you're gonna tell me what to do with my $100. That what you saying $100 too much. It's not about that. It's about what I go through on a day-to-day to be a man, a black man. I mean, let me put a black man to work in this industry for my $100. I'm not gonna let you then dictate how I work and do with my $100 and how you manage me. This not and again, only something. If I was on that jury, you don't gotta worry about me sleeping. You don't gotta worry about me doing anything because I'm already on board with it. And we listen, whatever gonna happen, we probably will leave out there being hung because I can identify with you in what's going on and how it's happening. But when you got the juries mixed up, the people, don't forget this. If it's one person on the jury of certain ethnicity, they can feel isolated enough to just go along with everybody else, not to be the troublemaker, not to be the person to stand up, because that's how juries work. It's that kind of thing. Right. And people,
I'm gonna share even more with you. Oh, this gets good because when you go through it, you get to learn. And I mean, I guess I was so traumatized, I turned the trauma into teaching. Because make no mistake about it, I had just had my baby girl. I mean, she could have been like 1 year old, maybe, or a few months. So I'm on trial, and what did they tell me? My attorney. Oh, let me show you how they set me up to my defense attorney. I was 24, so my defense attorney was like 26, give or take. And then he had another assistant attorney. He was about like a year or two younger than me. So I'm 24. The assistant attorney that was working on the case, he was about 23. And then my lead attorney was 26. I never knew his real name. His name is And I reached out to him like maybe 10, 15 years after all this happened. And he's doing very well. He has his own practice and everything. And he said that my case was one of the top 5 cases in his whole law. He said in his whole, like literally top 5 that actually that launched his law practice. And so I'm saying that to say this. What I learned on that, you can't learn on TV. This is what I learned. We had Ron, and I'm going to give my people, my elders, because I'm going to tell you those are the ones who showed up. It was particularly the black people who showed up for the jury, you know, with jury selection, were elders, black men and women, and particularly black women. Just the pool I had. So once they eliminated just about all but one of the black people. And now you're going to love this part, because here's the thing you don't realize. And this is why we have to really be common sense driven when it comes to knowing our history. Because you're going to have to eventually recognize some things, that's first, before it becomes a resource for you. And now I'm going to make it a resource for you right now. So this is how you eliminate 20 to 30 people who showed up to be a part of your jury pool. It was one question on that questionnaire that literally eliminated every black person on that jury selection. You know what that question was? You know what that question was? I'm going to tell you what the question was. It was just a basic. It says, the question asks, do you have any bias towards law enforcement? Right? Do you have any, so basically what they're saying is, are you uncomfortable or have any bias? Or guess what? Or do you have any fear? Right, with law enforcement. I mean, it sits right on the jury. And when listen to me, if I don't remember no question on that questionnaire, I remember that because you get to take part in your jury selection. And so once you read that, I'm like, oh hell no. Once I read that, I said they're going to eliminate every black person on here. And so it's virtually impossible to have the history that we have and have that question. I think that question is the greatest violation of civil rights in the history of African Americans. And if that question still exists on that questionnaire, it doesn't even matter how many black people show up for the jury pool. That questionnaire would eliminate literally 80% of your African Americans on the jury pool every time. And if you don't believe me, Johnny Gaspar just can clear it up with what I'm saying and the exact thing I'm talking about to see if I'm being factual right now, because I was on the other side of it. I was actually on trial, but he's an attorney and he can clear that up even and better. And Johnny, I'm gonna just let you know, at the end of it, I think that the word must have got, before I got the not guilty verdict by way of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, word must have traveled out throughout the courthouse that this trial must be like, oh, this guy, you know how people, lawyers talk. And so I remember one black man and 2 black ladies coming in the courtroom, all 3 of them was lawyers. I didn't know who they was at the time, but I remember the face, just to watch them see my verdict, right? And I'm saying to myself, where these Negroes was when I was going through. This is what I'm thinking to myself. I'm like, you Negroes coming to see me hang? But God had already told me previously. I mean, prior to this. That's why I'm so. Why you see me always talking about God, because He's real for me, because He was real in this situation. He's always real. But God had already told me during the recess that He's going to get me off. But He told me not to do something after He get me off, and I stuck to it. Oh boy, I wanted to do it, but I stuck to what He told me not to do. So these 2 black, 1 black man, 2 black women came in. All 3 of them was attorney. You know who it was? Take a while. Hey, Johnny Gaspar. Guess who it was? I can call. Well, he ain't do nothing wrong to me, but he stood right in that courtroom, him and the 2 black young ladies, to watch my verdict. You know who it was? Larry Hansfield. And I never forgot his face. I mean, I literally never. It's like it's stained in my brain. I said, I got to know him later on in life. We were good then, but I thought it was for me. It was just at that particular time going through that very hurtful to see that. You show up at the end just to see what the verdict looked like, and the fact that verdict shocked everybody in that courtroom is only how God can do it. And when them people came back with that not guilty verdict, it not only set me free, but it launched my public defender's career. and he had been had a successful career ever since. So I'm just saying, I'm gonna let you talk about that questionnaire because it's very important. So and educate them on that questionnaire when it comes to the jury selection. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, Johnny. Still can't hear you.
All right, how about now?
Okay, we hear you loud and clear.
Okay, yeah, it was a mic on here. Well, good evening, brothers, guests watching, everybody online. Thank you, Brother Johnny Gaspard, father of 2 grown adult kids that's still in my pocket, but I love them dearly, and a great husband, at least I believe that, and great brother and child and all that good stuff to my family. Yes, I've been practicing 20-some years, Brother Lightborn, and I do a lot of criminal defense work. And that question has been removed in most criminal defense cases. They still ask it. The jury, the prosecutors are allowed to ask it in what is called a voir dire, which is a selection of the jury, especially in cases where there is some level of police brutality involved. So that is something that's standard asked. However, the law has made it very clear that if you're, in reference to your jury, eliminating the Black people on there, it's possible that your verdict, if it becomes guilty, could be ultimately returned and appealed on the fact that you chose to eliminate all of the potential Black jurors and only had a predominantly different race, mostly white or Hispanic here in the South Florida area, on the jury when it comes to a Black defendant. So that plays a major role in the questionnaire. So a lot of times you still have the prosecutor ask it, but the courts no longer have that on the questionnaire itself. And just so that people could understand, a lot of times in voir dire, you're picking 6 to 12 people out of 80 people. So the court oftentimes will prepare a set of questions to have everybody answer, your name, date of birth, where you live, what do you do for a living, those kind of things. And then depending on the case itself, they may have certain questions related there. But generally, when it comes to most case-specific stuff, they no longer ask those questions that may be related, especially when it comes to your thoughts on feelings on police officers. So, like I said, the prosecutor will ask that, and the defense attorneys will ask, because oftentimes when cops are involved, because I question every police officer. I don't care if you're good, even if you're related to me or you're my frat brother, you get questioned because they have this solidarity thing that police officers have. So you have to be able to question their background and history. So when people are jurors, I ask them, are you related to a police officer? Have any family members of the police officers? Related in any way, distant, married to anything, divorced from a police officer, any of those things, because you just want to see what their mindset may be. Because the mindset when you ask that question is that they may be pro-police, when a lot of times that's not necessarily the case, but you have to ask the question anyway. So I think that's one of the things that they've removed is that particular question, Brother Lightboard, because you're right. It would eliminate a large portion of African-American people from the jury pool when you answer that question, because a lot of them do have a disproportionate fear or issue when it comes to the police officers and encountering them. So that would definitely a lot of times eliminate us.
No, Johnny, don't mean to interrupt, but that's not even a disproportionate fear. That's a historical fear.
Well, yeah, definitely. But I'm saying disproportionate from the perspective of your general number of people, because not all of us are. If you get what I'm saying.
No, I mean, I would say not all of us are, but unconsciously, yeah, we are. We still historically traumatized, only because, let's look at the facts. The fact that, and I'm only talking about law enforcement in the United States. It's only is exclusive to law enforcement within the United States. The fact that law enforcement in the United States is factually born out of slave chasing, right?
True. Correct.
You understand? Then that will historically give us an uncomfortable, particularly as African Americans, an uncomfortable feeling, be it consciously or unconsciously, of law enforcement, because historically you was born to oppress us. You was birthed out of the oppression of African Americans. So that's why I thought that the question really was completely unjust, not even just biased, just completely unjust. And right when I read that question, I already knew all. And guess what? True to form, all of my black jurists that actually showed up to be on my jury was eliminated.
Yeah, and in those cases, you know, you now have to, when as a defense attorney, your job now is to look at the question because you see that it is consciously biased. So you then have to ask a question to rehabilitate your particular juror. So my job then is to say, okay, Brother Tenney, I understand that you may have a subconscious or unconscious fear of the police based on the history that we've lived in these United States. But do you believe, Brother Tenney, if you heard the facts of this case, that you can honestly, without any prejudice in your heart and mind, make a safe and unconscious, unbiased opinion and decision when it comes to this defendant after listening to the facts, Brother Tenney? And Brother Tenney, after hearing me just say what I said as a black man told him, would say, yes, I definitely can make a fair and unbiased decision, regardless of the history of police in our community. I believe I can make a fair, and that way I rehabilitated him in front of the court. So if, again, the state decides to strike him as a potential juror, that's my grounds for appealing on the basis that they were removing all of the black potential jurors from the jury. So that lends to, like I said, in the event that there is a guilty verdict for you from an appellate perspective, you can appeal it on that ground. That could be one of the grounds you appeal it on. So that all plays part. Again, if you don't understand, and that's why it's good to have a knowledgeable, intelligent mouthpiece that can do those things for you in the courtroom, because not everybody is familiar enough to be able to, or confident enough to be able to take that step despite what they see. But listen, when I looked at today's topic and then I came in and I heard you discussing this, Brother Lightboard, I was like, man, how do we protect and keep our children alive and keep them safe? I thought that was a great topic. I wanted to come on here a lot earlier, but life has what life does. So I got in when I came. So I'm listening and see what I can be a blessing to.
Let me say, I think Lightboard took us to a place, and I think it's almost to a place that we're coming back to about this, because I think that one of the major issues with this case and all of the children on that case list, right, is that the system did not work for them for whatever reason. See, I'm not a person to run and say, oh, you know, I like to be objective, right? Not subjective. And it didn't work. And so what that means to me is not that it gives the naysayer to say, oh, well, what do you want to do? No, the system is broken. Listen, to me, this case, and this is something for people to think about when they're dealing with the court, their family, and if something has happened to their child. You have to be proactive. You're eventually going to be paying money, because let me tell you something, the prosecution took that case, but I would have told my own lawyer, knowing the history of Trayvon Martin, knowing the history of many of these similar type of cases where they want to show that they're hard on someone killing a black person, right? They hard on it. They go with the hardest penalty that usually is the hardest to prove. But when it comes to us, because I know people that have killed 3 people and they are right now, right? They have killed 3. Listen, I want you to process this. There are people who have killed up to 3 people, you know, different times, and every situational thing that has happened, they've got off.
Gotcha.
Because of how they, you know, managed and how they did the cases. But I really want you, John, I'm glad you came on here to really speak to this issue that I think a lot of people need to hear, especially in thinking of safeguarding their children, is looking at cases like when DAs decide what charges they're gonna give someone. right?
Yeah.
They can give multiple. They can give multiple, or they can give. Oh, we just gonna give 3.
Yeah.
We're gonna give 6. Oh, we just gonna go to 1. Capital murder. We're gonna go with this. And what happens with that is you're not putting in the circumstances, because yes, this case should look like this is a murder case, period.
Got it.
But we know based on this, if you really want to get justice for this young person and for their family, you have to put some more things up there than murder, because the likelihood that a jury of people who are not like that young man, who can't identify with him and his family, who will be sitting on the stand, could almost feel like, well, he may be not that much of a victim.
Listen, and it happens often. So when the prosecution decides to, I guess, go all in, that's the term that we'll use, and try to get the biggest charge, which is murder, oftentimes they tie the hand of the jury. So what you're often trying to do is get somebody to say, hey, let's, instead of murder, how about we do manslaughter? Can that be a lesser included offense? Because that's the term. So they'll have a lesser included offense to allow you to that, for the jury can then, if you don't believe that he acted with malice or intent to commit this murder, maybe he acted negligently, which led to the person dying. So maybe we don't get a conviction on murder, but we get a conviction in manslaughter. So at least we get him convicted on something. But sometimes the state would decide, no, we're going all out with the murder. This Trayvon case, he was told to leave the kid alone. He still followed the kid. He the one initiated the contact with the child. And then while he could have stopped his behavior, instead he decided to shoot and kill this kid. Absolutely. Again, that's what it looked like. But as Ron just said, if they don't know us, if the jury doesn't think like us or have any mindset of us, then why would they rule in our favor? All they saw is a black man at that, killing this or beating this white guy to the pulp and putting him in a situation where he thought he was about to die, and he acted in self-defense. That's what they see.
Okay, no, but
now, you lawyers.
Johnny is absolutely correct. But this is where the jury selection and the jury duty come in at.
Correct.
Because again, we was talking about, I said, listen, man, until we start to promote jury duty like we promote voters registration, because that's really the work. Jury participation, voter participation is one thing, but jury participation is the everyday thing. I'm telling you, I've seen responsible people, I'm talking about literally gung-ho about voters registration, voter participation, and would not set foot on a jury duty.
And I'll say this.
When you don't, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm completely against that, because I think it's better yet, it's hypocritical, and it's culturally hypocritical, especially in our particular community. And I asked Ron, I say, in the history of your life since civil rights, how many voters registration promotions campaign? Not voters registration. How many jury participation campaign and all that? Literally the urgency for you to participate. How many have you seen out in the black community? Give me one.
I'm glad you brought that back up, because that was supposed to be the turning point to go back to looking at the children, right, and the families, because that is the pinnacle when we're looking at this of why we should be teaching certain things to be important. Because let me tell you something, what I realized. A large majority of people who will end up in these situations with their kids being either on one side of on the defense side or being a victim in the prosecution side, the key thing is they have never been in jury duty, and jurors are the people making the decision on what happens to their family. And then I have seen this, that people will be mad at the jury who is there when it could have been you and your cousin who could have been there, but you do everything, as Lifeforce says, to get out of doing any jury duty, as if jury duty in many instances is torture. And in many instances, if you're really thinking about the support of your soul, like this whole saying, that old saying about self-preservation. When you're looking at self-preservation, it comes with helping others. So to go sit on the jury for somebody in some case and be strong. Don't be weak. We talk, and it's funny because we'll talk about this in business. Because business, we love money. Money is a big deal. We'll talk about somebody need to have a seat at the table. Or if you don't got a seat at the table for things to find out, you need a seat at the table in the jury room. And you need a person who can say, let me tell you something. Listen, let's keep it real. The boy was 14. He had a gun. Why did he have a gun? Because that's the culture he lived in. Not to say that he was out to do anything bad, because guess what? It is evidential to me that if that was his deal, he would have led with the gun.
Correct.
I think what happened, and in my psychological mind, he realized that the people were sweating him and he had the gun. And he knew that he's not supposed to let anybody know he had a gun. That's why he hightailed it up out of there as fast as possible. See, this is a hypothetical situation that I don't know this. What was the prosecution thinking about in this case? And where was the parents' input in saying, hey, he wasn't supposed to have this gun? So, yes, he ran. And then when they came to chase him, he wasn't running because he stole anything. He's running because he got the gun. And remember, if he's running because he got the gun, that's not what people who have guns do. They should have got some psychological, some criminalistic people come in and say that if he wanted to shoot somebody, he sure would have did that more than 130 yards later. Because
what case are you referring to, Ron? The same Trayvon case?
No, we're talking about the Cyrus case in South Carolina. Yeah, South Carolina.
Got it.
Where the guy was found not guilty, but also that's like the Trayvon Martin case, because here we go, people. I say this again. Sometimes the vengeance that people want is not really the vengeance that we want. The state wanted vengeance in a way, but I think the family just wanted justice, and it wasn't served today. It wasn't served yesterday, because you was trying to go. Well, listen, the man's 61 years old. Let's be realistic. When that man in Orlando, I break down because I watch all these cases. When a man in Orlando's son, who was 16 years old, took the car and they killed 3 kids and a man, and I guess the husband of this lady, kids and all that was killed, they then prosecuted the dad, who was an old man who had he's sickly, and they gave him 32 years. That's a death sentence in itself. But they didn't give him the charges they give him. They knew that they could get the stick, even though he was going to fight the charge. So this is almost an injustice to the family, an injustice to you as people who are now a victim. And the people say we're gonna get them, but you're not gonna get them. You're putting us in a disposition based on our knowledge and our listen. The lawyer on the other side, the black lawyer, I don't know his name, but he catching a lot of flack right now. He catching a lot of flack from people saying, but he did his job.
The prosecutor you talking about?
No, the defense.
Oh, the defense attorney. Oh, okay, yes.
He did. Listen, without a doubt, he did his job to present. You needed him to be your lawyer for the prosecutor, because the guy who's the prosecutor. The prosecutors, they played it in a way that wasn't set right. That the jury, their charges was too trumped up.
Yeah.
And then they played it in a way that, yes, that people could have never came out of the store, but they did. And because they came out of the store, this happened.
What it is. Listen,
it is what it is.
I will share with y'all everything that you've shared, because a big thing for me is jury selection. I tell people all the time, that's the biggest, that's where you win and lose the case, is in jury selection. And every time I go to jury selection, especially in criminal cases, one of the things that I do in my chat with the jurors, I say, listen, let's pretend that the person, my client right there, Mr. Smith, imagine that being your brother, your father, your cousin, your uncle. What would you want? Who would you want to be sitting in this jury? Would you want some people who don't care, who don't want to be here, who really has no intention of paying attention? Or would you want somebody who wants to listen to the facts of the case and make a proper determination about your uncle, father, brothers, cousins, guilt, or innocence? That's who you would want. Imagine if it was you sitting there. So I often, in our community, for whatever reason, we always don't want to go on jury duty because we gonna miss work. I can't afford to miss work. I ain't got nobody to watch my kids. I need to be here. Oh, I gotta pick up my kids from school at 3. I can't be here all day. I ain't got nobody to do that. I had a lady black lady who literally said, y'all might as well just take me off because I'm gonna just go with the majority. Whatever the majority say, I'm going with them. So y'all might just pick me off.
They say anything
to get off. And I said to those people, I said, when you try to get off, do you understand you're doing a disservice to the person that's sitting here? Because if that was your brother, your father, your husband, your relative, you wouldn't want this person. You need as many of us on the jury as possible. Because as my good friend, Judge Orlando Prescott down in Miami, who's head over the juvenile judges in Miami often say,
that's my boy.
Yeah, he said they don't know that I don't know that Ray real name. That's Ray. I don't know his real name. So they looking at me like, how you don't know Ray real name and you've been to school with Ray since y'all was in elementary school? Because we call him Ray. I don't know his government name. The other people that don't look like us can't fathom that. That makes no sense to them. So culturally to them, I'm lying when I get on the stand. Because how are you going to tell me you don't know this kid's name that you've been knowing since elementary school? You don't know his real name. So because of those scenarios, and I'll let you jump in, Gene, when you don't have us on a jury or in that jury room, as Ron so eloquently said, there is nobody to fight for him and our cultural nuances to let those non-Black people in there understand why he might have said this, done this, why he may have carried that gun. Why was he running? What was he running from? If he didn't do nothing wrong, why he running? Oh, he running because he think y'all about to do him something, because culturally that's the community he's from. Where if somebody's coming at you, you blast. If you can, if you could get away, you try to get away. That's the community he's from. But if you don't have anybody in that room to kind of let them know that, hey, that might have been what he was thinking, then they're thinking, oh, well, he had no reason to run. If he's running, that means he did something wrong. So therefore, I'm gonna rule that he's guilty of the charge, and that's the biggest thing. So I just think that we have to have a mindset shift of why jury duty is important, especially in criminal cases, because the system is set up, unfortunately, not to give us the benefit of the doubt. We are oftentimes guilty until proven innocent, and if you don't have the finances to hire a decent attorney that is going to be able to articulate the issues that the state attorney or the DA sides have, oftentimes you're going to go to prison. And that's a sad scenario because many of us don't come from communities or situations that have the money to hire an attorney. I literally have a case right now, a kid, and I just referred them to talk to Ron about helping their son out. And I couldn't believe it when the mom called me and said he just got in a car with a bunch of other dudes. Police pulled him over, found a gun in the back seat on the floor, and arrested him and the other person in the back seat. I said, but it ain't his car. She said, but that's who they arrested. So mom is tripping because the public defender is talking about, they looking to possibly charge him as an adult because the gun was stolen and there was a body on the gun. They found the gun, the bullet was used. So just like that, we went from him riding with some friends in the backseat of the car to possibly grand theft of a weapon, possession of a weapon by a minor, and possibly some charge of murder. Even though they have none of this, even though there's no evidence, nobody saw him shoot. The state attorney can do so. So here goes the state charging him with all these charges. And if you don't have a halfway decent attorney to come in and argue, hey, but he was just in the car on this day and he got in 5 minutes before y'all pulled him over, how could he have been the person that did any of these crimes, or this was even part of it? You are going to end up dealing with a whole lot of stress and probably sitting in somebody's jail for a long time or on some probation, because half of the time we quick to say, let me just take the plea because I don't want to risk going to jail. And that's the other thing, because once we are afraid of what the system may roll because of the history of it, we end up taking pleas to charges that we didn't do anything to, and end up now becoming in the system and now have to deal with being on probation and crossing every T and dotting every I for a period of time. And that changes your life tremendously, because once you mess up, you're now in jail because you violated probation on something. Now you got to sit, at least in Florida, you sit. When you pick up a new charge, you don't get a bond. You now got to sit in jail and potentially wait for your new case. And a lot of times they want you to resolve the violation case before your new case, even though your new case isn't even legitimate. So it's a system that's rigged, unfortunately, to get us caught up. And unless you are willing to invest your time as a jury members, as Black people on the jury, and I never thought about that, Brother Lightboard, about having juror, what was the term you said? Jury representation courses or programs.
Yeah, and promotions, like we promote voter
registration. Yeah.
Okay, it should be equally promoted, because guess what? When the campaign is over, you understand? The real war starts every month. Everybody knows that.
Because we going back to our
62 years and we ain't got that yet.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But that's really what it's all about there, Ron. So I just think that we have to be educated about needing to be on these jurors and understanding why the system is the way it is, because unfortunately we are oftentimes the one that suffers from it, because we don't have people on these jurors to represent our mindset and thought process of why we were going through what we were going through.
You know, I was gonna say, because I hear what Gaspar is saying, and I agree. He kind of said what I was thinking, because I heard Ron say earlier, because I was following on Facebook, so I couldn't get on right away. But I heard Ron say earlier, the system is broken. The system is not broken. The system works exactly how they want it to work. Because you got to remember, the system was never designed for us. The system was designed for them. You look at a lot of the cases, and the reason I say that, because you look at a lot of the cases where Black people are the defendant, right? And they're going to jail. 15, 20 years later, you're finding out they're innocent. 15, 20 years later, you're finding out that it was a false accusation. You see what I'm saying? Yet, no evidence, but they're still being convicted. And it's because that's the way the system has been set up. Like part of what Gaspar is saying, how we're guilty until we're proven innocent, right? And so I agree with the jury selection that Lightborn was talking about and educating people, because oftentimes we as a Black community often think, like Gaspar was saying, they don't give you enough money per day for you to survive. And your jobs don't pay you the difference sometimes. Because it's supposed to be you get paid a percentage from your job, and also, or you can use time. A lot of people don't have that
PTO.
Right. They don't have that PTO, they don't have that flexibility. It's like, if I don't show up to work, I'm gonna get fired. A lot of people live in that reality. But educating them on the importance of having those faces, our faces represented on those juries, is very big. I've gone to jury selection, and I realize that sometimes they ask questions that disqualify the Black folks, because they'll ask you, if it's a couple on the other side of that table, they'll tell you, so have you ever had a negative encounter with law? Well, if you're a Black person, 9 out of 10 times you're gonna be like, yeah. So you see,
they make it so the question that they do ask you will say, you know what, he's not going to have a jury of his peers on there. He's going to have a jury of peers, but they won't look like him. See what I'm saying? And so that's some of the things that we have to be able to educate people on, to say, hey, look, yes, you may have negative encounter with a cop, but in this instance, you want to show objectivity, so you're not dismissed. So you can actually be a voice for the person sitting on that table who is being falsely accused or anything else. So I think it's important, because when you look at the things that are happening, and you know, I'm an avid watcher of the news, and I'm looking at this case, and I'm like, yo, shot in the back, running away. Even the son on the trial is stuttering in what he's saying, so he's not even 100% sure of what he's saying. Yet the guy still gets off. Now you have this kid who they have shown killed on a cruise, little white teenager, killed his stepsister after sexually assaulting her, and he gets to go home with his family until trial. So right there, you can see the difference in the way you're treated within the justice system. And this is just some, you know, for that, you just have to realize that, okay, the system's not set up for us, but we have to find a way to get into the system so that we can at least have a fair chance when we're sitting on that at that defendant table.
No doubt, no doubt. Quick thing, I don't know if anybody gave a shout out to Travis, Brother Sands here on his, because I saw him put it in the Fatherhood group chat. Congratulations, Travis, on being selected as the Village Builder Award. So I didn't know if anybody had shouted out him up before, but I just want to give him some love on that. Congratulations, Travis. And then,
oh no, absolutely, I should have been the first one to do it. But you know what? No, you know what? That's what you call being brothers. And Gaspar, you get to be the brother that I just was too distracted to be. So I thank you for, you know, stepping in the paint. And Travis, yes, I'm extremely and always profoundly proud of you for just taking the torch and taking it to another generation. So much love.
No doubt on that. And Gene, everything you said is accurate in reference to what we go through. I think the biggest thing again is us being educated about why it's important for us to be the person that's representing us on the jury, because again, we are a lot of times in most communities we are picked out of a pool of 100,000 people, and they do get our faces on there, but we often are running away from this responsibility, and it hurts us tremendously when there's nobody there to understand culturally what that gentleman or that young lady may have been going through, their mindset, any of those things when making the decision they made. So again, the system has historically been what it's been. When it comes to us, we can't do the same things they do. And when it comes to us being the victim, oftentimes we are treated not as important in reference to how the state attorney / prosecution / DA will go after a case. So all of those are things we got to take into consideration, but you know, we still have to push forward. We have no choice. We got to persevere through the process. And the best that we can is try to get the right people there representing us and be willing to participate in the system the best that we can. Because a lot of people don't want to do anything till it hits at home. And then all of a sudden they want to be mad at the system. Oh, they treat my son wrong. I can't believe they did this to my daddy. I can't believe, you know, and then all of a sudden now they crying. But just last week when they was on jury duty and Jerome was in there, they're like, oh, I ain't trying to be in there. I ain't got time for that. I got to go to work. But now you want somebody to cry for your situation. So that's why I just remind people every day that may be you or your family member over there being judged. So come on out and be present and be part of it.
Let me say, gentlemen, this has been extremely enlightening. And the reason why I say that is I've always been very proud to serve on or to do my due diligence when I'm called to do. I've never been on a jury, but I'm always I'm always called. I can say in my lifetime, I've been called maybe 5 or 6 times to report to jury duty, and I've always made sure I've made time. Fortunately, I've worked for companies that allow me to take that time off to do that without any serious repercussions. But the enlightening part is that based on what you guys are saying, Lightborn, Jag, Gene, I guess I've never gone to jury duty as a means of advocating for my people. That thought just never occurred to me. And I promise you, I'm today years old, just realizing the potential impact that I probably could have had I ever been selected. I've never been selected. So I certainly appreciate this brand new perspective with respect to serving on the jury duty and the importance of it, but also there's an enhancement, if you will, that I, as a Black man, would have an opportunity to be a representative of somebody who looks like me, and that's pretty enlightening. My mind is kind of still kind of reeling with that revelation. However, in this particular case that Brother Ron has brought up, it seems like there was no amount of protection, no amount. The child didn't get saved. The child was murdered, and how do you protect a kid, based on that particular circumstance, because understanding the importance of serving on the jury duty, it's too late for that kid. It's too late. I mean, you can be a part of disrupting the systemic odds, if you will, that are against us, but the kid is gone. The kid is gone.
And I would agree with you on that. I would agree with you on that, Tenny. That child is gone. There is nothing that we can do. They're a victim. There's nothing we can do for that child. But if we are present and involved, our ability to have found that officer in that particular case guilty of something, even if it was manslaughter, gives them a different look on how they go about policing us. That's all I'm telling people, because now here he is with a not guilty. He's back out on the streets. He's back in his police uniform. He's back present, whoever that individual may be. And despite you would think the trauma of taking someone's life, for many of them, unfortunately, we're not someone. We're still chattel. We're still not something that's worthy of given the time of day. And sadly, we're still looked at by many of the men as that are out there supposedly protecting and serving us as, sadly, property, as something that's not valued. So in taking the life of that particular person, and I'm just talking in general as far as police encounters when it comes to us and us dying at their hands, sadly, when the state doesn't properly charge them or overcharges and a jury comes back with these not guilty decisions.
This wasn't even a police encounter.
I brought up the police one because my mind always stays on police behavior when it comes to us. Sadly, it because when we don't do anything about those particular things, it ends up being a situation where that person, that individual, whomever it may be, is now free to go back out there and sadly act in the manner in which they did without thinking about the possible repercussions thereof. And I think that, and not
Ron,
like that.
I'm sorry, Ron. You know what?
Yeah.
And to your point, Teeny, because I'm gonna tell you what we start to protect them at. In this case, and it's almost like concurrent. It runs concurrent. In this case, like so many other cases, be it Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, etc., what we allow and we shouldn't allow is we allow people to hijack our narrative. The LGBTQ community does this very well.
How we got the LGBTQ? You know, I'm gonna let you go ahead. I'm gonna
show you how well they represent or advocate or engage their narrative. If you misgenderize, right? If you misgenderize their somebody in their community, then they always have an advocate on the scene, be it in the community or guess what? In the media, to make sure they got representation that you don't misgenderize their community. This is where it applies to us. The problem is we allow people to not even so mishumanize, but miseufanize. You understand? Which means if that is a kid, make sure that he's always represented as a child. The problem is we let people turn Trayvon into a man. We probably let the same thing in this situation turn that child into a man, and we didn't stick to the narrative of saying this is a child. So every time, whether they try to refer to him as, because sometimes they're trying to, this is a Jedi mind trick they try to use. They'll try to use either the term young man or they try to use his name to erase the fact that he's a child. And the fact that we allow people to erase the fact that our children who are being killed are still children, that's where we lose at. And so you got to make sure at every step of the way that every time they mention this boy, that he's still a boy, not a man. Or he's still a child, not a man. And that way the jury can empathize more because you still pumping it in their head. This is a child. This is a child. This is a child. And once you make that a child, then the more he become a child, the more human he become. But if you turn that child into a man, it's going to look like the killing was justified.
Good point.
I would like to
go ahead, Tim. Go ahead, Travis.
I would like to chime in. First off, it's always an honor to have this conversation with you all. I sit back and I evaluate everybody's thought process and see where everybody is. I mean, it's really amazing just to hear the conversation. Lionel, you hit it on point. I always talk about character. Character assassination has always been one of the biggest situations, especially in the legal system. Character references, character development. Like once they can assassinate your character, they basically got your whole life from them. One of the biggest things when we talk about protecting our kids, just me learning one thing about just life in general, I had to develop. A lot of us are not developing these 4 areas that I'm about to mention. And the reason why we fall short all the time is because we're not thinking about the mind, the body, the soul, and the emotion. Most of the time, yes, in our minds, we're developed, we're educated. We got degrees and we got all that stuff situated, but our bodies are ill. Like what we eat, the stuff that just come out of our systems. I mean, our spirit. What are we putting in our spirit from the music, from everything else, and the emotions? Most of these people, and I say this because most of us, we so quick to react because we wasn't taught to respond to different things. And it's just like when we react, everybody say that we're angry. And when it's like we need to teach our people to the way you protect yourself is you have to develop yourself. You have to build yourself in a way where you're now an individual that have not just the ability to change the world, but you have the emotional intelligence it takes for you to change the world for real. Like it's a thing for me, but that's just like what I do every day now is I'm teaching kids how to love themselves and building those core values that can make you be whole again. Because we are like I came from a broken place, and we all been operating in a broken place. It's time for being broken should not be normal anymore. Let's go ahead and make wholeness one our things, and so that we can stop getting our kids killed and getting our families destroyed because our undevelopment that we need to be working on. That's all I want to say.
You know,
Point. Good point.
I'm listening, and I think it's not that. I'm going to say this from a different aspect, because I don't think what you're saying, Travis, is it's correct. But I also think that you're missing the fact that a lot of people are just fed up. The reaction that you're getting is not a reaction of the inability to express themselves, but it's the inability to control what they're saying because of the history that they felt with what's happening to them. Right? When we look at this case, and I'm going to say something that, I feel what this case also solidified. It solidified the fact that as an Asian person, you're not like them. You're like us, right? So you now have taken another community and put it against what the Black community is, right? Because you just killed one of them and we're letting you off. You know you were wrong. Everybody knows you're wrong, but you're not one of them, right? And so now the reaction that you get is not because I one day woke up and was like, you know what, this is awful, but it's because, hey, it's another person getting away with a specific crime that you know that they're guilty of. Then you sit back and you think about yourself. Man, I was just walking down the street and I got harassed. I'm driving down the street and they're telling me I fit the description. I'm inside the store, I get followed around. That could have been me. So that's the reaction that you get when it comes to now where the outrage is. It's not so much of a lack of inability, because me, as a person who I feel can control my emotions, there are times where I say, you know what, I got to be quiet, because if I say something at this point, it's going to be taken all out of context, because they're going to look at me and say, angry Black man. You see what I'm saying? So I get what you're saying, but I also think you have to give the grace for this was the final straw type of attitude. Because in some cases, for many people, it is. And how much am I going to swallow before I can't swallow anymore and I have to throw it up on somebody? You see what I'm saying? And so what I think is, I'm gonna take what you said and say, take what you're holding in, but constructively dish it back out, so that it makes a change and it doesn't fall on deaf ears. Because I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think now that I'm controlling myself, what do I do with it? Because it keeps happening to me. You see what I'm saying?
And what I want to do to add on to that, see, the thing is, the history continues to repeat itself, because it happens all the time. And the thing that bothers me, as being a young person growing up in the same story, has to continue to play over and over again, because somebody starts reacting, but nobody's really responding. It's okay. We have power to do so much, but what are we doing? And then this is me listening to the young people. Let's say, for example, I'm gonna give you a little synopsis on where I'm at right now. I decided last year to be the president at 2 schools for the PTA. Black man stepping in the paint to be the PTSA president for 2 schools. Do you understand the challenges that it takes for you to build a community within a system that's meant for you to fail? My thing is, I'm continuing to do things that's just trying to figure out how I can develop something where we have a community. And I'm telling you, our people, and this is just me and my evaluation, this ain't the global situation, our people are messed up. the mental mindset that they're on, they can't see past their own nose. Like they can't see past the fact that you have people that can help our development, but because they put people within our community that looks like us to sabotage us, we have a problem. We're going to continue to talk about what's going on every year and every month and every week. Somebody's going to be dying about something. Somebody's going to get away with something. We're going to be angry tomorrow. We're going to be angry today. We're going to be, but my thing is, when are we going to create the system that remember, mind you now, we had a black culture that created what, Black Wall Street? And if we want to talk about history, we created a system, and what happened? We started to become powerful, and they came to try to destroy us. We need to create the system again, but this time we're not allowing that to happen anymore. But my thing is, we are afraid, because when it comes down to it, who's gonna take that initiative and say, you know what, let's create the Black Wall Street again. Let's come together and build something that can't be walked away. And my thing, sorry to say, if you don't look like us, or you not even look like us, if you don't have the core values that we stand on, you cannot be a part of this. It's not about your skin complexion no more. It's about, can you stand for the same core values that I stand on? Do you believe in the same things I believe in? Being kind, being guiding with love, taking care of the kids, the family, wholeness. It's a lot that I'm so like, I sit back and I continue to do the best that I can to and that's why I sit back and I watch and I listen to where everybody's mindset is. We need to make a change. Everybody has a part to play in it, but what are we doing? Somebody needs to do something, and everybody's doing something, but it's somewhere and somehow we're missing the mark. Because if we get together for real, because I even created a membership called the Mountain Movers just to get people like you all together. Because I know what it did to me to have older people to come into my life and actually protect me from things that I couldn't even see past, what I was doing. That opened the doors to me. But it's just like, it's so much. What are we doing?
Trav, you are your best answer, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because if I take what you just said, you say we are messed up, and I'm gonna. Because what you said, I'm like, it's just scientifically proven. You're 100% correct. We are messed up. And here's why. If I ask you, out of 400 years of slavery, right? So if you've been traumatized by 400 years of slavery, and then an additional, after slavery, probably additional 100 or something so years, maybe more or less, of Jim Crow. And if I ask you, with all that historical trauma, right? The question I would have to ask you is, why are you not messed up? You understand? So the question I have to see, so the thing about it is, you're so busy looking at the trauma that you deny your own triumph. And so the answer really is within you. So here it is, you are the successor, but you're looking at the stresses. And so your narrative is the success, better yet the stress is winning over the success. Even though the question is, again, why are you not messed up? Because you just said that we're messed up. I'm like, true, we should be, because 400 years plus Jim Crow says we should be scientifically, if you put the equation together, we should be messed up. So the question is, why are you not messed up? Why is Lionel not messed up? Why is Giles Scott? And so I think we sometimes look at this through the wrong lenses. Right. Exactly. And that's the question you should be asking. So it's not so much that why we're messed up. You should ask, given the fact that we should be messed up, given all those stressors and all those traumas, the question you should be asking is, why are we not messed up? And that's where you're gonna find your greatest answer.
And you know what, I'm going to say this, and y'all may not agree, but it's to answer that question. It's not so much why are we or why are we not messed up, or it's so much how are we able to continue through the mess? Because you stopped at Jim Crow, but we're still being traumatized till this day. Yes, we're traumatized up until 8 o'clock tonight. You see what I'm saying? Because the system hasn't stopped. The things have not stopped. It's how are you overcoming it on a daily basis so that you're not messed up. Just to add to what you're saying, because I agree with where you're going with it. I just think that you kind of stopped a little bit short, because tomorrow when we wake up, we're still going to be in the same crap that we were in Jim Crow era. I was talking to my staff last year, June, when we were doing our Juneteenth celebration and stuff like that. And I broke it down for them. I was like, it's only been 100 years since Juneteenth, right? And it's been a little bit more than that. But even when you break down the decades that we've gone through since then, the fight hasn't changed. It's just changed with the faces that are fighting it. That's all that's changed. And then you get thrown a little bone so that they can say, hey, be quiet now. But you're still not where you need to be as a culture. We're the Black culture itself, and I'm saying the Black culture widely, whether you're Caribbean, you're Black American, you're African, it's the most copied culture in the world. But yet it's the most crapped on culture in the world. Because every single day they're trying to figure out a way to keep us where we are. So the question is, how are you maintaining with all the adverse things that are happening?
Well,
go ahead.
I just been sitting back listening, and I think everyone made great points. But I think one of the main issues in our community, that there is no consequences or sustained consequences for the injustice. And that's why we're feeling it more and more. Whether you're talking about Malcolm X or Martin Luther King with the marches, if an atrocity happened, the consequence did not stop until we got the desired outcome. And I think that's where, as a people, we're falling short and we're letting our kids down, is that we continue to let it happen without consequence. I also think that's what separates us from the different communities, because they keep going. I respect the Hispanic community because they will protest whether they win, lose, or draw until the day comes in and goes out. And I think that's what we've gotten away from as a people. We've started just accepting the injustices again. I just wanted to add that little bit to it. I also want to tell you, Lana, I stayed avoiding jury duty, like the Black Plague, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I never thought of it that way, and I thought that was a great perspective, a great conscious view of that I never actually looked at. But that's all I want to add to it.
Let me try to sum up. First, I want to say this. Thank everybody for what they said tonight. And I think that I know that when Jag came on, he said, well, I thought we were talking about one thing. And it seemed like we were talking about another thing. But I think that this is an important part of the think tank that we want the viewers and people to watch. That topics, when you hear them from men and fathers, they may not be the same topic, but on the same subject when you get to the end. So I'm going to, and again, because it depends on what the narrative that we're pushing for, right? And how that narrative is pushing. And I think that we heard tonight. I want to recognize this one answer. I'm summing up the question in my, what if you do all of these things within yourself and your family, and there's still no accountability when it comes to law officers? There's not going to be, because the establishment, I think we said this earlier, the establishment of law officers wasn't about accountability. Not for us. The accountability was to appease the people who hired them to do what they wanted. So they didn't have any accountability in what they could do, as long as they did what the people who wanted them to do. And that larger majority of what law officers started to do. Because remember, this is why the police department is mostly, police and fire departments are rooted in Irish, the other Negroes of America, as some people would say. But they would do what the people in power, the white people, would not want to do, because they wanted to fit in So it's like this class system that begin to go down. So looking at that, and I want to really break this down. 32 years separates the two deaths of two people that died the same identical way, from the same in the same circumstances. The only thing different is that people highlighted in this death, the person had a weapon. That's why they were killed. But I want to go back and think about, when you think about Latasha and you think about Cyrus, they both were scared because they knew the trauma and the harassment that they had received on a day-to-day basis in these places, because the people could do it to them and they had no recourse. So when we're talking about the recourse and what we could do different, it's really strong about what Lightborn said, is we lived through the trauma. And many people have kind of cashed out to say, I'm not going to fight through the trauma. I'm just going to succeed. I'm going to be like a cyborg. I forgot the word that cyborgs would say. They just integrate it into what's happening and say, I hear none, I see none, I speak none. That's what happens. And so the rebels in our society might speak out and say things, but the rest of us still have a traumatic experience, because listen, for all the things that you described, Travis, that we had, where they at now, they all was burnt to the ground. This is a reality. They were all burnt to the ground. But that didn't stop from us keep making them. I think that's the part that Lionel was saying that I think is so important, is sometimes we focus so much on where the negatives is and where the bad, instead of looking at what the cure, like for every virus, there's a cure within the virus. And we need to really start focusing in that capacity. We can solve a lot of our issues, but some of our issues are only going to be solved. And I hate to utilize this young brother's death, but if he wasn't scared, he would be on trial. You know, you had a lot of people in the city say, I'd rather be judged by 12 than
carried by 6.
And we sometimes say, ooh, wow, ooh. But that's one of our problems, because we do say, ooh, wow, ooh. Because when it's on the other end, when we're on the other end of that, the people justify that. They're cool with that. And a lot of times they do it and they walk out to jail after the time they spend in jail, free and exonerated, found not guilty. And sometimes we are found not guilty in the same capacity. A lot of times with murders that have been committed among ourselves. Because I want to keep that in the mindset, because it's a part of the system to continue to traumatize us. Continue. You Johnny, you know this. There are people that you cannot believe that they have won all of their cases and are living on the street right now today. How is it? And then you think of a regular guy who got some child support, then he got into a little dispute, altercation, and he was doing 30 years. You were like, how did that happen? And understand, this is the kind of system. The good people, listen, war is like this. All the good people go to war, either get killed and get maimed. All the bad people find a way not to have to go to war, but they advocated for the war.
And they become president.
My wife about to say the shit.
So I just wanted to highlight that both of these children were scared. They both was killed, and the young brother, I just want people to remember that you might put a narrative that he had a gun, he was showing a gun on social media, he was doing all this, but he wasn't what you tried to make him to be, because if he was, we'll be looking at another outcome in another case. We looked at a case of somebody running and who ended up getting shot in the back. And if that doesn't tell you the history because you can go anywhere in history and see any decade, any day in the United States of America that happened to a black person, man, woman, or child. So it's not like this is wow, this happened. This is our reality, and and not until we begin to start doing the things, making sure we on jury duty, making sure that we are advocating and sharing with our kids what they should and should not do, Not in the case of don't do this, don't do it, but they should and should not do to advocate for themselves. And what are we doing to advocate not just for them, but for ourselves as well? With that being said, fathers, oh man, this was an awesome conversation. We definitely went to the root on it. As people were watching, I hope that answered the question. Hope that answered your question and gave the people who was asking the question what they needed and how they got operate. Again, I want to thank everybody. We don't have the time. I'm just going to run the credits, and when we end the show of our sponsors.
Before you do, brother Osborne, Dr. Osborne, I wanted to say something. I noticed and I think you mentioned it earlier. The attorney who represented the Asian gentleman was a black guy, the lead attorney that they had. Now, do you think that was strategic? Do you think they
absolutely? Listen, absolutely. Listen, there is no doubt about this that it was absolutely done that way. Because guess what? When you go to court to win. Listen, the prosecution didn't go to win. They didn't go to win. They went to prove some point that, oh, we're serious about protecting black people and black children. When that's farthest from the truth.
Listen, he was just another glorified Christopher Dunn, and they just played that Christopher Dunn role. It's the same thing. It's not even a new strategy, and it's a slap in the face.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately for that attorney, because you're right, Gaspar, he was doing his job, but unfortunately, that can in some cases get him ostracized from his own community, even though he was doing his job.
Yeah.
So,
and again, listen, I know this. I would like to get him to be my attorney if I shoot somebody in the back, because clearly he was able to prove that that something else happened, but all different circumstances. With that being said, so Father, again, I'll run the credits of our organizations afterwards. That's JAG, Zeta Chi, Zeta Xi Nu, and Omega Lambda. I run those later. And the go out credits, but I just want to thank you guys. Great conversation, and repeat after me. I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of respect.
I am a man of respect.
Fathers, I say that I am.
I am.
I say that you are.
You are.
I say that we are.
We are.
Championship
Fathers.
We always try to keep our kids on us. And keep your kids on your arm protected and your families on your back in your community, and do the same. Thank you again, everybody who watched us. Great, thanks. We'll see you here next week. Fatherhood Think Tank, another night of fathers conversations for fathers about fathers dealing with father issues.
You see that, Jag? Jag is awesome. I love you guys. Thank you.
That's how people love y'all, man. Have a good night, my brother.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Have a good evening, gentlemen.